Okay, there's something rising up from the deep unconscious, and it's hard and it hurts. In those moments, self-compassion as a practice, super helpful. Like just that recognition of like, oh, this really hurts. Oh my God, this is so hard. Oh, sweetie, okay, I got you. I'm here. Like those moments of just applied kindness toward the experience, super helpful. And then to like allow, like soothing the nervous system through movement, like actually walking or just going for a walk or just anything where even if I did want to be in a meditation seat, to still like allow a little bit of some kind of rhythmic movement with an awareness of the breath. Yay, hello.
Hello, Christine.
It's so good to see you. Hello.
Wonderful to have you here on the podcast. And today I'm talking to Christina Wushke. And I know Christina on Facebook for many years. Yeah. And we've been around in the same kind of circles. And I was always admiring Christina for what she was doing. And so I wanted to share her with you guys. So
Oh, thank you. Oh.
So how should I introduce you? Who are you, or what are you doing at the moment?
Oh dear, what am I doing? I guess I am a yoga instructor would be, the title I most put out there on social media or resonate with in my system. I teach I actually call it mindfulness-based movement these days, because the traditional yoga poses that are more popularized in social media aren't necessarily my go-to sequence of yoga poses. So just to, not confuse people, I'm a mindful movement teacher. How about that?
Wonderful. I remember you made a lot of meditations that were really nice.
Yeah. Still doing that. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's been a lot of years of meditation.
Okay, so I want to ask you, what is your definition of awakening? Since we are on this Awakening Now podcast, and everyone has got different ways to describe it. So I'd like to hear yours.
Yeah, I mean, and I want to name that. I think that's a really big question. Let's see, what is awakening? I've been on this path for a long time, and the first thing that comes to me, and at least what's true for me now, is just I look at that question and I see how much it's changed for me, like over decades of time. But one thing I think that remains consistent with it is that I think of it as a shift in perspective. So I can look at it on a micro scale and describe it as those moments where you find yourself pulled into your story, or you find yourself maybe lost in thought, or you find yourself really immersed in one thing, and then all of a sudden there's a shift to your breath, or there's a shift to pure awareness, or there's but that's that shift from this to that. That's how I would describe it on just like a day-to-day human level. And then I'm thinking you're also talking about it on the macro, like those moments where there's such a dramatic shift that you almost can never go back fully to. There's something that shift knocks you off your square so much that it continues to unpack over decades or the course of your life, but you're changed. There you leave that little shift feeling very different. So that's probably how I would describe it on the macro side. And then I'm not sure where all of your people are, but I feel like, just in everyday human moments, we're micro awakening all day long. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, this is exactly how I see it. It's like there is
Yeah.
a start point, or
Mhm.
awakening out of some ideas about who you are, what everything is, into
Mhm.
this, oh,
Yeah,
whatever.
how did I ever think I was that?
Yes. And then it continues now and now and now and now.
Well said.
Mm.
Love that.
So, could you share a little bit about your first initial shift where there was no way back? When something's changed so dramatically that
Mhm.
it was
Mhm.
like, oh, here we go.
Honestly, the very first one was when I was a little kid. Like
Wonderful.
yeah, I was 5 or 6, maybe. I'm not sure exactly, somewhere in that ballpark. And I had been really ill and gone through like a period of, just, head injury and meningitis and just like various life circumstances. And I don't know if that was the trigger or not. I'm still unclear, but the memory that I have is just waking up in the morning, and the the sensation of it was that I then woke up again. Like it's like being so fully in a dream and waking up from the dream being like, oh, right, that dream wasn't what was really happening. I'm here in my bed. I'm oh, that like and that felt sense of the dream fading. But then it was like that sense continued. And I'm like, oh, but also, is this a dream?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, wait a minute, who am I actually? And there was this moment of, almost like like awakening from the dream and then awakening from this dream into this, who am I actually? And that the memory of that experience has really never left. Like it's impacted my entire life. Um, and there were phases where I got very pulled into the story and the drama of life. And another one that maybe is like, left me feeling like that continues to reverberate. I was 28 when that one happened, and I was really heavily immersed in A Course in Miracles
Oh,
and going through the daily lessons. And I had gone through all 365 lessons, and I was doing it again, and I was on like my second loop of, and I think it was, I know it was the lesson that says my thoughts don't mean anything. And that's the one that I have been kind of contemplating and meditating. And there was something about that as a little, uh, almost like a little bell that was like ringing and reminding me. And it actually took me back to that experience as a child. And then I had this sensation of, if my thoughts don't mean anything, what if I don't mean anything? And it kind of shifted into, that experience of sort of like the no self, like just
mm-hmm.
the pure awareness state. And it didn't last very long. It was just moments, but it was almost like this something small that over time became quite big and foundational. So it would kind of continue to shift in my system over years and years and years. So I
Mm.
guess those two I would get like, left me forever different. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing. It's incredible that such a young child could
I
see
know.
something that is so
Yeah.
unusual.
Yeah, and I had no context for it either, which I think in a way there was an innocence that I know like later in, in my 30s and in my 40s, I got more into spiritual circles and communities and spiritual narratives. And then all of this sort of meant something
Mm-hmm.
that, um, and in a way it was a little risky because I could go into a sense of specialness with it then, because now I had this
Mm.
context of, oh, I've got something. And when I was a child, it was just the pure experience. And I had no way to attach it to specialness because I didn't have this sense of, oh, this is unique and rare and something great. And I just thought everybody had those moments. And,
Uh-huh.
this is the way that it is for this
Uh-huh.
is just you.
Wow. Oh,
Mm.
how interesting. I remember when I was a kid, one night I was on maybe it was a nap in the daytime. I don't remember that exactly, but I was laying next to my mom and I felt the moment when I fell asleep.
Mm.
Like I consciously felt the moment when I fell asleep, which is quite opposite. But still.
So it was, well, same really. This way or that way.
And I was so excited. Oh my God, wow, this is incredible. But nobody understood what I meant.
Yeah, but you
And it was
felt
just
it.
like a fleeting moment. But it was, for me personally, as a little child, that was incredible experience.
Mhm.
Falling asleep consciously. Yeah, fun.
Wow, that's great. I love it.
Yeah. So when we're
Mhm.
little kids, we don't really have any
Yeah.
language to explain what happened or if anything happened. But
Mhm. So great. Yeah, there is such an innocence there.
mm. Okay, so since all those realizations or seeing something differently, what was your path like? Some is rocky, for some it's easy. What was it like for you?
Oh, not easy. No. I wasn't one of the easy ones, no. I mean, and still, I have like this embodiment. My human nervous system is super sensitive, so it comes with a set of challenges that just humaning brings in a sensitive, deeply feeling system. So in my 20s, I had the set of challenges I had was just this maybe ongoing feeling of being different and not sure and struggling with belonging, like who are the other people that are different, and that set me on this journey of going to the ashram and living there and be like, okay, these people are more spiritually oriented. Maybe that's where I feel like I didn't fit in academia, and I'd been an athlete and I was like, I didn't quite fit there, and maybe I'll fit here. And so a lot of my 20s were about that, like real seeking to understand what it meant to feel so different.
Uh-huh.
But then in my 30s, after that shift, kind of really feeling like, oh, okay, like I had some context now. Maybe this is just my purpose of life is something to do with this spiritual stuff. Let me try and figure that out. Yeah, and then I think the set of challenges became a little bit different for me after that, but just kind of grappling with the how do I want to say it? I guess the integration
Good
of
word.
the yeah and how how to live in this state in a way that's useful to like I guess to my own life and to my son and to my family and to my close friends, but also like in a way that's useful to humanity. Like there just became a real deep kind of calling towards service. Like, is this actually helpful? And even kind of tracking in some of the spiritual circles and some of the common narratives is like, well, if this is all about just ending my own personal suffering, is that truly helpful? Is that really helpful? And I stumbled upon the Bodhisattva teachings around that point, and it just so deeply resonated. It was just like, this is what feels true. This sense of, and I got my interpretation of it, which might be different than other people's interpretation of it. But my interpretation of these teachings is like, I always describe it as we're like zoo animals. We've kind of become aware of our captivity. And we could break out of the zoo and we could experience freedom and we could be our wild self and, play and be free and enjoy. But there's this nagging feeling of like, oh, but my friends are all still there. Like, how do I actually commit to making sure my friends are getting out of the zoo too? So once I made that commitment that it's like, this isn't complete until everyone's out of the zoo. When we're all free, then I can feel like this is complete. And
I hear you.
Yeah. So to me, that's my interpretation. I always go to metaphor, but that's my interpretation of the Bodhisattva path. And then I felt a deep commitment to that path somewhere in my probably late 30s, early 40s, and it's stuck. I'm 49, just for context. So that's where I still am. This quality of how can I be of service in a way that's useful.
That's beautiful, and thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. You know what? When I see your photos in the mountains with the dog, it's just mind-blowingly beautiful. Just that is already like bringing me positive energy, or it's like breath of fresh air or some kind of
oh yay.
Just seeing that is already like service,
It feels that way to me too. I feel there's something about the preciousness of nature that like, to me it's almost like a portal. It's such I like using that word useful again, but like it's such a useful way to connect in, because it's like it's always there. It's never not there. Even like, last night I was sharing with you on the text, not sure if the power would be back on. Like, even when nature is storming and fierce, it's a different energy, but it's still like, nature is just this reliable thing that can always take me into the present moment. So we talk about, those micro shifts earlier, and that quality of, if I am finding myself pulled into a story or pulled into that tight space of being fully immersed in some internal drama, there is just like, but I can look at the tree out the window, or I can, like hang out with this plant. But it's always there.
Yeah, I also say that nature is the best teacher. It has all the answers.
That is totally my experience too. Yeah, right?
Like when I'm lost, if I need some kind of
yeah
explanation of anything, I will look in the nature and see it there.
Totally. Me too. It's like, when in doubt, what would nature do right now? Yeah.
It's lovely to talk about reconnecting to the nature because
Mm,
somehow, I don't know how, when this disconnect happened mentally, not like realistically, because we are nature, we are what nature shows
we
up
are
as.
nature.
But
Hmm.
mentally, a human became disconnected from nature and started to conquer it.
Isn't that interesting?
It's
Yeah, it's an
weird.
ongoing contemplation for me, actually. It's like, this is so curious. What, how did, what? I have this story, and I hold it very loosely, so I'll call it call it a story.
Okay.
This idea that maybe humanity is in an awkward developmental stage. I don't know if you have children, but like, I just remember being a mom, and these developmental stages, witnessing the developmental stages of my child, my son, and these the twos and the teens, and these sort of stages where things could be even a little bit volatile too. It's like
Mm-hmm.
the like going through this adolescent phase, and just really tending to that in a way where it's like, how do we stay relational and yet keep you alive. And I feel like on a maybe this is metaphor, but like on a grand scale, is humanity in an awkward stage? And do awkward stages last for 10,000 years on that scale? I don't know.
Ooh, possible, possible.
But that's my curiosity, is that, are we just in this developmental stage right now where
It would
we're
make
sort of
sense.
like the two, like, it's mine. No.
Hmm.
And we'll grow out of it, and look back and be like, oh, isn't that amazing? We made it through that alive. Wow. I hope.
Hmm. I hope too.
I'm 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 invested in humanity's success.
Yeah, that would make sense because otherwise, we look at nature and we see that nature doesn't make mistakes.
Mm,
What works,
mhm,
works. What doesn't work is not there.
mhm.
Like
It's like it's discarded.
everything
Yeah,
works. Right.
yeah.
So how come this delusion of the separate self of being outside of nature
Mhm. Why did it
with a
happen? Yeah.
controller? At some point, they may have been useful and helpful.
Oh, yeah. And
Otherwise, it wouldn't be
still.
here. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
still here. That means it's still working.
that's
But
totally my take on it. Yeah.
but there is so much confusion about that, and there is so much suffering about that as well. Like, what is that? How is that useful? Or how is that working?
Yeah, yeah. It's sort of like, what's the point of this ego thing? Why? I sometimes feel bad for the ego. Like, the ego gets such a bad rap. And I really like this thread we're on of, like, the wisdom of nature, or the profoundness, and it's so beyond what a single embodiment could ever make up about it.
Like a
It's
little
so much
ant knows
bigger,
about the
right?
forest.
Just like,
Yeah.
yeah, and so if nature created the ego, is it wrong? Is it a mistake? Is it just there for some purpose that we can't conceive of right now at this level of development, that we don't understand it yet, but it's a control. So then,
Unless it has been hijacked by something else.
yeah, yeah, and who knows, right? Yeah. And I
Because
think what yeah,
sorry,
no, you
please.
go. Well, I just had this thought of, like, the nervous system as a comparison, like, we in polyvagal circles will talk about the different gears or states of the nervous system and they're all good, like, if I perceive a threat in the world, my nervous system is gonna shift up. It's going to gear up. That seeking system, that motive, that system is going to kick on and go, okay, like, Is this the thing I gotta fight? Do I got it? Like, and we get, and like physiologically, our system will respond. We get a surge of adrenaline. We get like, am I gonna need to fight that bear? Do I need to jump away from that car? And this is all great. Like, this is how we're still alive. It's wonderful that we have that. And yet there is this way that we can get stuck in it. And we can kind of almost like a bicycle that is no longer easily shifting through the gears, and it's like, oh, like there's this grind of like, what's, something's not quite right. I'm perpetually in a fight. I want to fight everybody all the time. What's going on? Because we can get stuck in a gear, and yet we're so gloriously, beautifully made that we can shift. We can grease those gears again. We can find that way of shifting back into that what we call ventral vagal in the polyvagal world, but we can shift back into, in spiritual circles, what we will call our center, or
alignment.
Alignment, being here. And physiologically, we need to know we're safe enough, though, because on a survival level, it's the nervous system will trump our spiritual states if looked around, if assessed that that's not appropriate. That to use a mountain metaphor, I do need to be very centered in some situations. If I'm in a scramble or something, where I need to be very aware of where my feet are and where my hands are, and I need to be very present and single focused on what my next move is going to be. And then if I see a bear, that it's going to shift. Like, it's going to shift what I'm like. There's going to be a moment of like, okay, is that something I need to pay attention to? Do I need to like come down from this and forego that?
Yeah, but this is only in Canada. The rest of the world doesn't know about bears.
Oh. Yeah. Well, and sometimes the bear is actually a rock, and that's maybe something to talk about too.
Oh, so funny.
There's this like, oh, wait
that's
a second,
for you everyday thing.
That's a bear-shaped rock. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
But yeah, the first need is the need for safety, and somehow that a lot of people feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And just growing up in a family where mom and dad are fighting, or they're not feeling safe, or there is abuse, or there is alcohol, and there is even nastier stuff, the system doesn't know what safety is. It hasn't been downloaded properly.
Yeah. And also the body itself, sometimes updates are needed. And like I was saying about the bear and the rock, it's like there is this way we can get stuck, and in the trauma circles or the embodiment circles, it's called paper tiger threats. I think is the way it's described. But where it's like the idea of the body is responding to a potential threat as though a old memory is reoccurring, and the response from the body is just as palpable and real as though, and for good reason. Like, this is actually not something gone wrong. The body is protecting us, which is good. But there is this way that we can update the system and really get we can get our nervous system or our bodies acclimatized to really assessing, is that a rock or a bear? Like, actually just let me take a second and see, is that truly a threat in this moment? And that can be really helpful in getting us unstuck, getting out of that fight flight, that perpetual fight flight state, where we can kind of just come into a present moment and check. And, oh, okay, that's actually a random effect. I'll keep going. I don't know if that's helpful or not, or
Very helpful.
useful way of describing it.
Useful because when there is a fear of feeling, and that's what the fear is. It's a fear of future feeling. Something will be taken away. I'm not gonna get something. I'm gonna lose. Oh, I'll be abandoned. I will feel scared in the future. It's always a fear of feeling. So
Yeah,
it's
or
a
being
psychological
overwhelmed.
thing. It's
Yeah,
all these paper
yeah, the paper tiger.
tigers. Yeah.
Yeah,
But if they live in
yeah.
the mind, if somebody lives in the mind and is feeling perpetual fear of something that will or will not happen,
Yeah,
the way back to presence is to acknowledge that it is safe to feel.
that's great. I love that. Yeah, yeah. I think of it often as you say living in the mind. I think the way that I would describe it is like living in memory. And so there's like this way that memory can get continually rehashed, and it almost becomes like this film that runs over top of what's present in the
Mhm.
moment. And so there's like this film, or like, like pink colored glasses, or like, but there's there's this screen of the memories of my past that I'm seeing through to what's happening right now. And there is this way that we can clear that film, or we can drop those memories down for a second and look through a clear window and be like, oh, okay, this is what's happening right now, only this, just this. And what is happening right now? And just that recognition, I think for me has been really helpful in like, this is a memory. This isn't what's happening now. And that like it's almost like cleaning the glass, and looking through. It's like, oh, you're not my mom, or you're not my nanny, or you're not my scary teacher from grade 3. Like, you are you right now, and you're this pure being, as I am this pure being. And there's a way that can shift, and it begins to update. I really believe that it through slow micro changes, these things will really dramatically change over time.
I love that you said that micro changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's moment by moment. And when you
Yeah.
look back, like a few years back, then you notice the big change. But when you are living today, nothing seems to change. It's all the same, isn't it?
I'm a really big fan of bite-sizing these things.
Mm.
Yeah. Because like you said, we're afraid of feeling. And I think I've really come to understand that there's do you know of Dick Schwartz's work, or the IFS system of
No, I
feeling?
don't know.
It's quite lovely. He's great. He's a beautiful human. But he was a family therapist for a lot of years, and just discovered in his journey that there's a state of being, what he calls the self with the big S. Like, there's this big S self. There's this state of being that is untouched by trauma.
Hmm?
It's perpetually there. And then parts of it, and he says there's none of us here that are not singular. Like, we all have multiple personalities. That's just the way that we're structured.
Hmm?
But these parts of ourselves can become quite distinct, and how he describes it is pushed into extreme roles to protect the system. And they're often running on this fear of being flooded or overwhelmed by feeling.
Oh.
Yeah, so he calls them like the protector parts, and or the manager parts, which I really resonate with. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I can really see when the inner manager is running the system, and to understand that manager is protecting.
Mm-hmm.
That manager is like it just brings me to my heart when I think, I used to just be perpetually annoyed with my inner manager, but to understand this, what he calls the positive intent, like all parts, no matter how polarized, no matter how extreme, they actually have a positive intention of protecting a part of the system or protecting the entire system. And to me, it's just like, oh, sweetie, yeah, of course that's what you're doing. And this way of behaving, perhaps maybe shooting yourself in the foot. So maybe we should bring that in. I love you, but stop doing that. But yeah, so I think I really resonate with his. I don't know if I have a sense you'd probably just really resonate with. I think the biggest thing about it that's, maybe resonant to the spiritual stuff is just that this idea of the self, this expanded state of being it's always there. And it's, it's never been damaged by these life situations. And to me, I just find that just such a beautiful way to express it, that, that we can be harmed in life, we can be hurt psychologically, we can be traumatized, and that does require healing and updating on a physiological nervous system front. And behind that, there is this presence, there is this quality of self that's untouched, and is just like, like how Ram Dass has that mantra, I am loving awareness. It's a popular one, but it's so true. It's so the narrative of this capital S self. It's just this loving presence and healing. Thank you, Ram Dass. He was what a gem he was, hey? Did you ever get into his work?
Not so much, no. Somehow didn't cross my path.
Oh, beautiful. Just a beautiful being.
But what you're saying, yeah, it's true. When you have a dream at night and you are being in some kind of nightmare situation where everything is going wrong, you wake up, nothing happens. You're not touched. It's still the memory and still maybe emotions, but truly nothing happens.
Echoing. Yeah.
Yeah. So this awakening, the second awakening.
Yeah.
Like, here I am.
Yeah.
This is going on like a dream. Yeah. I'm untouched.
Yeah.
It's not me. It's not mine. I'm not even doing this. It's just what's being dreamt. And here I am.
Yeah. I love that. I'm just having this flash of when my son was going through the developmental stage of why. He would ask like 57 million questions a day.
What age was that?
He was around 4. He was around 4. Why? But why? But he would ask big questions, like why? But like, why are we here? Like what? I'd be like, well, it's one of those things that nobody really knows. But why? Like, why don't they know? Has anybody been like, why? Like, well, I'm not really sure, but why? Like, why? And we would kind of go through this, almost like inquiry together of big whys. And I remember this one night we were getting ready for bed and he was doing his, but why? And I had this flash, because he was asking like, well, what happens after we die? Like, but what if I die? And I'm like, like I'm serious. He has big whys. And there was this moment where I had this realization that, even though we're here for such a temporary period of time in this body, there's this aspect of what we are as consciousness that continues. And I couldn't give him an answer of like, I don't know what that is. I could tell you it's heaven, or I could tell, but I don't really know, other than what I do know is there's something that continues. And the experiences that we have here somehow matter. There's some way of that having impact no matter where we go. And especially the love, like especially that quality of, and not necessarily romantic love, though I think that's part of it, but like capital L love, like this way of how we're deeply touched and impacted by people that really matter to us. And there's a way that we somehow wake up from the dream and bring that with us. Like, when you have one of those dreams that's super impactful, and the feeling of it, like you might not remember the details by the end of the day or the story, but there's something about the feeling that's lingered. I don't have them very often, but I love them when I have them. But I feel like it's like that, that we shift again into the next place, but there's something carried. Those moments
Beautiful. And do you have any advice for somebody that is still seeking or trying to figure it out, like this consciousness, this beingness?
Let me tune into them.
Let's see.
Yeah, let's see what would be good. Because I'm aware that there's so many different stages, and that I'm still going through my stages too, right? Like I don't want to make it seem like I'm, finished, because I see it as a continuum, that there's the ongoingness. So, maybe the person listening is way ahead of me, or like wherever we are on the journey. So take what resonates and discard what doesn't fit. But let's see. I think one thing that helped me in stages of difficulty, like when there were unprocessed traumas coming up to the surface, and that there would be an overwhelm, like it could be overwhelming at times. And I think what helped me in those stages was moving my body and shifting my practice to more, rather than being still in my seat, to incorporate a little bit of movement that would be really integrative and soothing. So it would seem to bring a comfort quality to the nervous system, and then soothing the nervous system could be helpful in moving through that difficult piece. So I really found that to be helpful in times of like, okay, there's something rising up from the deep unconscious, and it's hard and it hurts. In those moments, self-compassion as a practice, super helpful. Like just that recognition of like, oh, this really hurts. Oh my God, this is so hard. Oh, sweetie, okay, I got you. I'm here. Like those moments of just applied kindness toward the experience. Super helpful. And then to allow, soothing the nervous system through movement, like actually rocking or or just going for a walk, or just anything where even if I did want to be in a meditation seat, to still like allow a little bit of some kind of rhythmic movement with an awareness of the breath. For me, those things were super helpful. Yeah, nervous system is huge, is the other piece. Yeah, no matter how big the realization is that we still have a nervous system. As long as we're in our body, we have this nervous system to tend to. And it's, we're like the custodian of this animal that is like, as much as I love my pets, I need to recognize that there's a way to caretake this nervous system. And so I would recommend really tending to the nervous system lovingly, gently, as you would a beloved pet, if you have pets.
Beautiful.
Assuming we all love animals here.
And I saw you have videos on your YouTube channel where people can just go along with you and the exercises and do some gentle, mindful movements.
Yeah, I would recommend my Patreon page, probably the most for if somebody's interested in the nervous system stuff. If you want to learn how nervous system regulation is relevant to the spiritual journey, I will go check out the Patreon, and there's tons of free. Like you don't there is a paid tier, but the paid tier is more for people that are facilitators, or like if you're a yoga instructor and you want to know like how do I teach this, then that's like what the paid tier is for that. And then all the free stuff is just for humans with a body. Like, so if you have a body, probably going to be helpful.
So it's not for ghosts.
Even if you don't have a body, it's probably still somehow useful.
Cool.
Yeah, so lots of free stuff there. And I'm currently running an 8-week challenge of brain training, vagal toning. So it's just different ways to work with the nervous system.
Has it started already?
Yep, we're in week 4 right now.
Oh, wow. So anyone watching, watch out for the next one.
Yeah, and you can join now. Like you can just go through, you can just do it self-paced. You can speed it up. You could go through, you can do it as an 8-day challenge.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, it's been lovely connecting with you. Thank you.
Same here. I'm enjoying this very much. And I'm like, oh, the hour is gone now.
Yeah, that was so fast.
Cool.
Yeah, it was great to talk to you. Is your name Ilona? Is that how you pronounce it?
Ilona.
Ilona. Yeah, it's great to talk to you.
And for everyone listening, thank you for watching and listening. And please connect to Christine. And we'll leave all the links in the description. And if you like to do the challenge and join the Patreon page, do so. And yay. And we'll see you next time. Bye for now.